Elite Facts presents
11 amazing Easter eggs in The Walking Dead.
11.
Heisenberg's blue meth. Starting off the list with something that dates way back to Season 2 and is probably one of the most awesome yet subtle references for anyone who's a fan of AMC programming. In 2011, The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad were pretty much AMC's magnum opuses, Breaking Bad being one of the most well-written shows AMC has ever produced, and The Walking Dead being their most interesting show. I mean, this show pretty much reignited a flame in what was fast becoming an oversaturated genre. Anyway, people have speculated for the longest time that we could possibly get a crossover between the two shows, even though it's incredibly unlikely. Well, the closest we'll get to any crossover is pretty much in the form of Easter eggs, and this is probably the best one they've given us. During Season 2's first few episodes, T-Dog suffers an injury that's severe enough that he's in need of strong medication in order to heal. Daryl, everyone's favorite redneck, and his brother Merle step in with a bag filled with all sorts of medication and drugs. At the bottom of the bag, we see Walter White's infamous blue sky meth. This is so subtle, yet so awesome.
10.
Headshot Walker achievement sound. This one is up for debate. If you watch the very first episode of The Walking Dead and watch the scene at the police station where Rick shoots one of his former colleagues who's been zombified, and you listen faintly in the background, you can hear the Xbox achievement sound effect.
9.
Walt Jr.'s Dodge Challenger. The second of 3 Easter eggs we've included on this list related to the show Breaking Bad. This Easter egg was included in the very first season of The Walking Dead. Now, okay, you could argue the fact that this episode of The Walking Dead was released before the episode of Breaking Bad that introduced us to this link. And yes, this link is pretty far-fetched. However, it seems a little bit too convenient. In Season 1, Episode 2 of The Walking Dead, titled Guts, Glenn and Rick plan an escape from the zombie-infested streets of Atlanta. As a diversion, Glenn hotwires a 2009 Dodge Challenger in order to lure a nearby horde of walkers away from a group trapped in a department store. Now, isn't it a coincidence that the following year, Breaking Bad has an episode in which Walter White buys his son a 2009 Dodge Challenger? Same color scheme and same exact model, even though the 2010 model was out at that point. They could have gone with any manufacturer, but they decided to go with the exact same make, model, and color car used previously in The Walking Dead. Oh, and let's not forget when Walter's wife, Skyler, forces him to take his son's car back to the dealer. She literally says, quote, "Make sure you talk to the general manager. His name is Glenn." Okay, this is a direct reference on both the show's parts, no matter how you look at it. Who knows, though? Either this was a subtle link between the two shows, or it was just a deal between AMC and Dodge.
8.
Stephen Kingstown? Just a bit of a small Easter egg here. If you look closely at Rick's police badge in the first season of The Walking Dead and pay attention to where the start of the first episode of the show takes place, you'll know it's called King County. Robert Kirkman himself has stated that the place was named after famous horror author Stephen King.
7.
Romero zombies. So despite the fact that director George Romero doesn't like The Walking Dead, and to be fair, his reasoning for it is somewhat justified, the creators of the show have nothing but the utmost respect for him. He is, after all, the godfather of zombies, and he revitalized the genre way back in the late 1960s with the cult classic film Night of the Living Dead. Romero pretty much created the zombie genre that we all know and love today. Well, most of us do, at least. To show their respect, The Walking Dead's creators have placed nice little zombie Easter eggs in reference to Romero's previous works. These zombies include the air hanger zombie from Dawn of the Dead, Steven from Dawn of the Dead, Bub from Day of the Dead, and the tongue zombie from Day of the Dead. Not to mention that there's a shot-for-shot remake of a machete kill from Dawn of the Dead that was implemented into the Season 5 finale. And on another note, they also implemented a zombie that closely resembles the poster zombie from the unofficial Dawn of the Dead sequel, Zombie 2. Boy, whoever writes these episodes just loves paying homage to directors who paved the way for them, don't they?
6.
Daryl and Jesse Pinkman know each other? Okay, this is the last Breaking Bad Easter egg, we promise. So, during Season 4, Episode 7, Daryl tells a story about a strung-out dirtbag he once knew. This dealer dealt drugs to his brother Merle. Now, remember earlier how Merle had a bag filled with strong drugs that included the infamous Blue Sky meth? Well, here's where he may have got it. This story mentions that this janky white guy, Merle and Daryl, were all watching a show on television. Merle cracked a joke about the show, which immediately offended this dealer, as it was his kid's favorite show. This was all followed by the dealer pointing a gun at them and saying, "I'm gonna kill you, bitch." So who do you know from Breaking Bad who's a janky white guy, deals drugs, feels a certain guilt when it comes to kids, and has an obsession with the word bitch? Jesse Pinkman, of course. Now, they don't go into a whole ton of details on this, but a lot of the things mentioned by Daryl point toward Merle knowing Jesse Pinkman before the outbreak hit. Small world.
5,
Beth finds Lucille in season 4. This is some blatant foreshadowing right here. 2 seasons before Negan and his dreaded baseball bat Lucille hit the scene, there was something hinting towards their imminent appearance. During the second half of season 4, during one of Beth's episodes, she came across a group of brutally beaten zombies. In the middle of it all was a baseball bat covered in barbed wire. Wonder why Negan left Lucille behind.
4,
Macon, Georgia. So for any die-hard fans of The Walking Dead who've played the excellent Telltale games based on the comic, you know that Macon played a big part in the first Telltale season. It's where the start of the game takes place, and it's Lee Everett's hometown. For those of you who don't know, Lee is the player character. Other than that, Macon, Georgia is not mentioned anywhere in the comics or the show. Well, at least not until season 3, 1 year after the first Telltale episode was released. In the TV series episode called 30 Days Without an Accident, Michonne points on a map to a county called Macon, and not the actual city. However, show creator Robert Kirkman stated that this was indeed a homage to the Telltale series of games, and stated that they could indeed bring characters from the game over into the show. Another little tidbit too, in season 4, episode 14, Glenn points to the sanctuary called Terminus on a map. Judging by the accuracy of the map, Terminus is not far away from the real town of Macon.
3,
Morgan wasn't far after all. Small little Easter egg here. One of the streets in the Alexandria safe zone introduced in season 5 is called Morgan. Turns out Morgan wasn't far from finding Rick after all.
2,
Ben Gardner from Jaws. We can all pretty much agree that the governor was a sick man, but boy was he a riot during his 2 seasons on The Walking Dead. Viewers were all disgusted by the fact that he kept walker heads in a private aquarium, but astute viewers likely noticed that one of the heads in the tank is actually an exact replica of Ben Gardner's severed head from the Steven Spielberg movie Jaws.
1,
Probably the coolest Easter egg is one that has no reference to any other show. If you pay attention to the opening titles to The Walking Dead each season, the older the show gets, the more decayed the show's titles get. That is attention to detail right there.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.